In today's action-packed aviation news recap, there's updates on the Airbus A321XLR, with an airline being delayed, Air New Zealand experiencing new aircraft woes, and VietJet signing a deal for new planes. Let's begin with Qantas, who have published several updates with a significant focus on investing in its customers long into the future. As part of this investment, the airline has unveiled adjustments to its commitment to the single-aisle A321XLR and, unfortunately, subsequent delivery delays. But let's get on to the positive first. The Australian flag carrier says that 8 additional A321XLRs are now to be deployed towards Qantas domestic, as part of an existing order for the type. This straightforward allocation change will ensure that the airline can use the next-generation capabilities of the aircraft that'll gradually replace the 737 fleet across high-profile routes. Qantas has long relied on the 737 for domestic and also some short-haul international services. However, similar to the Boeing 717, the group would ideally like to pivot towards more efficient aircraft, and thus retire these fleet types. While being deployed at the moment only to low-cost unit Jetstar, the broader Qantas group has, in the last 18 or so months, really has been able to see the capabilities of just the A321LR. This long-ranged variant has enabled easing pressures on Jetstar's existing 787 fleet, while also opening up several new route possibilities. Now, onto some of the more unfortunate developments. While Qantas has a pretty substantial order book accumulated through several noteworthy orders across recent years, the group is also equally battling massive delivery delays. Like I always do point out, they are not the only ones, but Qantas now says that its first A321XLR is expected to be delivered 3 months later to Qantas domestic, with an early 2025 delivery now scheduled. As a result, the airline is looking to retain some existing aircraft longer, while potentially looking towards the leasing market to ensure that it doesn't have too significant operational problems because of these delays. Manufacturing delays specifically are why Qantas has had to push that delivery back. And if we get into the real specifics, Qantas won't be the only one being impacted with delays for the XLR, as other airlines forecast similar. Ultimately, such a delay revealed by Qantas actually only comes a week after Airbus announced it would push back the entry into service for its XLR to Q3. Aircraft manufacturers worldwide are battling supply chain difficulties and tight certification practices, which have delayed the EIS for several high-profile and upcoming aircraft types. That does include the XLR. Despite a frustrating delivery delay, Qantas will still see significant benefits over acquiring the next-generation narrowbody over previous generation planes. The XLR is 5 meters longer than the 737-800 that are being replaced at the airline, and these jets will thus be configured to seat 200 passengers in a 2-class configuration. Ultimately, this capacity will also see a 15% increase in overall seats. Qantas notes that despite a 15% increase, there'll be no space lost between seats as the airline ensures customer satisfaction levels do remain as high as possible. As the 2024 Singapore Airshow came to a close, VietJet announced plans to acquire the A330neo to bolster its widebody fleet. It signed an MOU. The deal is touted as historic, as once it is finalised, it'll be VietJet's first widebody order ever placed, and will add to their network in several beneficial ways. The carrier says that adding the A330neo will enable better growth across long-range services. However, there'll also be a focus placed on enhancing their regional services with a higher capacity aircraft. VietJet has committed to 20 units, all for the Dash 900 variant, with the belief they will help replace some of those leased A330-300s. A deal is fantastic for the A330neo program, which continues to build its backlog of orders slowly. However, notably, orders for the smallest A330-800 continue to lag. Airbus went on to say that they're excited to be now playing an essential role in the long-term future of VietJet and aiding their network expansion. The A330neo is expected to achieve the lowest operating costs per seat possible and enhance flying across several high-profile routes that VietJet made mention of a little bit earlier. Airbus also went on to say that because of VietJet's commitment to the XLR, it'll enable new cities to be within reach while helping the company move towards more efficient flying. On to the final story of today, and that sits with Air New Zealand, who in similar fashion to Qantas, are also readying themselves for more aircraft delays, and their plan to move towards only Boeing 787s for their long-haul fleet will be pushed back as deliveries for the new 787 batches are delayed. As part of the company announcing its 2024 interim results, the airline said Boeing informed them that the first batch of new Dreamliners would no longer arrive on time. Thanks to the latest delay, the first aircraft is not expected to arrive now until mid-2025. While the airline, per guidance, expects the first from a new batch to arrive again, just to clarify, in mid-2025, the reality is this could be delayed further. Across the ditch, we've seen Qantas announce delays to several high-profile aircraft types, and when you see that the reason cited is manufacturing difficulties and because of a bruised and beaten supply chain, you'd expect it to potentially grow. To mitigate some of the losses felt from the 787 delayed deliveries, the airline says it'll introduce a dry lease 777-300 towards the midway point of this year and also in November. That makes 2 additional units, and they say they're also in negotiations for a third aircraft. While the airline is frustrated with these newfound delays, it says it's going to do everything in its power to ensure that it can retain a robust schedule for its customers. But obviously the aircraft-related difficulties do make that hard. And on a more positive note, it does say that the interior retrofit of the current 787 fleet does remain on track. Arguably for Air New Zealand, these problems have only been heightened because they are also facing difficulties with the Pratt & Whitney engine crisis. Now, this has seen several aircraft across the A320neo family parked for lengthy periods, and the aircraft have to again resort to the leasing market, something it's probably grown way too familiar with across, say, the last 5 to 10 years. Looking ahead, Air New Zealand says that its outlook for 2024 probably isn't as positive, and they believe performance will be considerably lower than the first half of the financial year. The airline cites the aforementioned economic and operational conditions, which honestly have rapidly deteriorated, they say, over the coming months, which will actually hurt them more so in the second half. And as I touched on a couple of videos ago, increased competition from US airlines such as United and more, who have recently expanded towards New Zealand, are hurting them. That's going to conclude today's aviation news recap. If you have any thoughts, well, you're more than welcome to drop them down below in the comments. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. It is certainly appreciated. Do take care and do also be safe. I will see you same place, same time tomorrow for your latest industry developments. And we'll fly.